Hey, bienvenidos. Welcome to. Oh, wait, you're not supposed to do it that way.
Again.
Civilization has its drawbacks.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Red Wine Rising, Part 2. I'm Andy. This is Joe.
And I have failed in the mission by not being able to drink wine today. And
Joe has a very, very poor excuse for not being able to drink wine today. Would you like to share it with everybody?
I'm going to drive my son to Taekwondo later, and I find that driving with a significant amount of wine in me is frowned upon by society.
Law enforcement.
Yeah,
kids,
all kinds of people.
Your wife, yourself.
I'm sure my ex would be also. Well, I don't know how displeased she would be. My son's kind of a pain, but yeah, no, I'm not at work technically. I guess I'm technically done for now.
Are you like a Taekwondo family? Are you a mixed martial arts family? Because you're involved in that kind of stuff yourself.
So here's the irony. I did sort of Japanese karate for many years, and
you know he did it because he pronounces it correctly.
Yeah, I have a third-degree black belt earned almost 10 years ago. I'm sort of pretty much out of shape now, but you know, skills don't completely dissipate after you put in like 15 years of training. Like, you know, I could get back there if I tried. But you know, as you get older, it's just harder to like put up with the level of training without getting hurt. That's the tricky part. Anyway,
you know, so right this moment, you could hook a leg behind me and put me on the ground, no problem. Right?
Maybe. Yeah, I can fight much better than an alternate reality version of me that never trained in martial arts. That is the one thing I can say with complete confidence. If I met that sort of better twin, right, who wasn't really working out at all, I'd kick his ass.
Right.
I'm sure of that.
That guy could ruin it.
Yeah, right. I'd ruin it. Other than that, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. I'm never going to get into a real fight my whole life. I like the training. I like hitting things. I don't really think of it as self-defense. Like, I'm never going to be like, if I'm ever like in a real like situation, someone's going to have a gun. It's not going to be me, and all the martial arts training is not going to help. Right?
Not going to be me.
I don't do it so like I can walk into any bar and I'll be the last one standing after the bar fight. I'm like, I guess maybe I could, but why would I do that? Like, I have no desire, you know.
I'll be the first one in my car.
Yeah,
in the parking lot, taking off down the street. That'd be me.
But it's a thing. I think people are like, what about the self-defense part? I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm never gonna face that. Like, I just don't live that life. So my son, my ex-wife took my son to Taekwondo, and if you know karate and Taekwondo, we tend to have a playful rivalry between our styles, right? A little bit. But like, honestly, he's in a very lovely school. He's got good teachers. And like, the thing about martial arts, I've always felt I don't know where I stole this from, but someone said, the dojo you will stick with is the one that's closest to your house. Most people, if you have to drive like 45 minutes to get to the school, you're going to quit, right? Most people, there are exceptions, but you go to the one that's nearby and make it part of your like routine, you know, especially if you're going, you know, several times a week.
Right next to the bodega.
Yeah. So his mom and his sister drive him to class. It's very close. It's the closest one to his house, and they're great. You know, they had to move after the pandemic, but Daniel and Donna were all were rhyming. That's great. So he's
Daniel's not drinking any wine.
Yeah. So he's been doing
always drunk.
He did it when he was younger, and then he took a break, and now he wanted to go back. I'm very proud of him, but and I know enough to give him tips, which is kind of cool, like very subtle technical tips, right, that make his stuff better. Because there's always stuff, you know. There's so many things you can learn, and I have a lot of years of training. So I'm like, when you put your foot down from this move, put it down, point the toes the other way, and see what happens. And he comes back and he's like, wow, that made it a lot easier. I tell you, the best martial arts instructors are the ones who get decent and have no athletic ability. Like, really good athletes, they just see something and their bodies figure it out, right? They sort it out and they just do it. Like, the greatest sprinters in history are not the most technically knowledgeable sprinters, right? They're freak athletes who all want to run fast, and their bodies figure out how to run. They don't necessarily know exactly what angle their elbows are at. But you get someone who's mediocre who got pretty fast, not the best, and they probably had to really learn, to really like figure it out. So that's me. I'm the mediocrely non-athletic dude who got semi-okay by really like learning stuff.
The guy that works really hard to get just past medium.
Yeah, I'm not even past medium, but to medium. I think that was medium. I learned a lot of stuff, most of which is completely useless. It's like I said, which way to point your foot after you throw a kick so that your spinning kick lands. Like that's cool, but no one needs that.
Okay,
it's fun.
You're not taking martial arts for the I'm gonna kick somebody's butt thing. Do you get yourself involved in it because of the discipline, or what's the draw for you?
I think having physical capacities are cool. And like it's like, and everyone is drawn to a different physical capacity, right? Like people I'm sure who like really get into Zumba. They want to be really good at Zumba. There's no purpose to being good at Zumba, but we accept that. We accept that dancing is something you do as its own sake. For me, I really like being able to go in the gym, and if there's a heavy bag, I can make that puppy sing, right? Like I can hit it heavy. People look at me like, "Are you mad at someone?" And I'm like, "There's no anger here. I'm just kicking the heavy bag,
I just know to drive my fist through the bag, and that's the job.
I can hit things really hard. Does it help me in life? No, but I just find it cool, And that just the same way, like I said, other people like to ski or they like to do Zumba, and sparring is fun. Sparring is fun the same way playing basketball is fun or skiing is fun, right? It's it's a problem solving exercise and it's physical, right? It's like, okay, this guy's punching me in the face. How do I get him to not punch me in the face? And I punch him in the face instead, and like it's a different solution set for every person. It's so different from being like on a treadmill,
right?
One foot in front of the other, right? This is much more like playing racquetball or, where you're solving these spatial problems. I bet it's good for brain health and stuff, but fundamentally it's fun to do once you're in shape. when you're in really bad shape, it's hard. then you are the punching bag, and that's less enjoyable.
Well, speaking of sparring, we should probably talk about Darrow a little bit.
Yeah, Darrow.
So are you at the point where you are, because we're both at the end of part 3. So we've gone through the transformation and we've been introduced to the meaty part of the school. Are you really glad that you read this? Or are you like, it's all right? Are you like kind of medium on the fence? Or is it like, this is a waste of my time? What are you feeling about this book?
I thought I liked it, but I felt that section, the first big section where they're at the testing grounds, when they're in their teams, their houses, and they're like running around fighting each other.
Yeah, we got castles. Some of us have horses.
I thought that dragged. I didn't really get the purpose, and I started to get it at the very end, and that made me enjoy it more. Right, but like I was just like, there was too much going on. I wasn't sure it just felt too much of it felt like treading water.
Okay.
Right, like now we're rising. Oh, and now we're in this stalemate, and then the stalemate shifts, and then it shifts back, and then it shifts, and it's a try-fail cycle, right? This whole section is Darrow tries to win. Well, it's not a spoiler, right? We know he fails.
No,
he loses his house, right? So it doesn't mean he fails permanently, but obviously he doesn't, right? Obviously he doesn't actually die there in the snow, right? Because there's more book. But this attempt to, so here's the thing with me. This attempt to win the game it fails, but it fails in kind of a meandering way, and I almost wish it was quicker. Like he's clearly trying a method and it's going to fail, and then I'll have to think of a different method. That's a try-fail cycle, right?
Yeah.
You try a different way, and maybe you win on the second round. You don't necessarily have to go through like 3 iterations of the game, but because he was having some successes and some setbacks and some situations he faced where I'm like, I don't know how what do you do with Titus? It does seem like a no-win thing, right? What did you think? What did you think?
Well, hmm. So I think back to the girl with dragon tattoo, right? When you get to rape in a book,
Uh,
it's like, well, I don't want to read about this. However, girl with dragon tattoo, I mean, the whole premise was based around that initial scene that kind of punched you in the face and said, this is the world we're living in, kids. And, millions and millions of people joined in. Same thing with Red Rising.
yeah.
What I liked was, as a reader, you want Titus to die and be punished for his crimes. The thing that I loved about what they did in the book is they didn't make that simple or easy. Killing Titus is not that difficult, but what Pierce does is take what you kind of want to happen, and that it's like we were talking about last time. It's that simple teenage justice idea, and he takes that and he twists it. So what you wind up out of that scenario is, this is what justice does not look like. And I loved that resolution to the Titus story, because I felt like it was well thought out and it was deeper than maybe it ought to be, or would have been otherwise. And it's just like, there are no easy answers here, kids.
Yeah, I almost wish there had been an easier answer that he hadn't taken. The fact that there was no easy answer that I could see made it more muddy, I think, than I would have liked.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a brief moment where I thought they were all Reds.
Are you not still on that horse?
I'm not still on that horse. Too many of them
have families that convinced you away from it.
Too many of them have families that they mention who are like around.
Was it like when Servo mentioned, "Oh yeah, I hung out with him when I was a teenager, and I know his family"?
Yeah, that, and there really wasn't evidence for my idea, right? Like I think, but even before that, like what's his name? Cassius had a brother, right? They couldn't both be Reds. Like that doesn't make sense, right? But for a brief moment, I'm like, what if they're all Reds? And I thought that was a cool idea. And
It's a great idea.
They're not, like
they're Reds, they're pink, greens.
Yeah, it's like they're all lower classes who are trying to climb so they can lead a revolution, and they're all just getting subverted by the machine and end up being the Golds.
Right.
But if that was the backstory for the setting, that would be phenomenal and hilarious.
Right.
It's not, right? Okay. All right. I mean, a different author could have taken it that way. I don't know if Pierce at one point goes, I can make them all right. I don't know. I don't know if he ever had that momentary thought, but clearly that's not the story, right? So that's fine. I thought
it would make our guy a little less special, but it would make the whole story very interesting from a sociological perspective.
Yeah. I think it'd be more interesting in that global sense, and probably less interesting as Darrow's story, because then what is his struggle just to not be like everyone else getting corrupted? Like that's a story. That's a different book, right? Just to say this could have been a different book, like, duh. Like that's true of every book at every step. It could have been a different book.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if it would have been better, but it was a funny idea. I really enjoyed that thought. And then it was like, okay, it's not right, but okay. It was cool.
And it's fun when you kind of get hit with these little ideas about, what this is. It could be this. It could be this. Yeah. And that kind of speculation that goes along with speculative fiction is a lot of fun.
But it does add that Darrow's not quite unique. So then we have the sense of, it's not that now we have this added thing that if Darrow succeeds in his rebellion, it's not that any Red, given his assets, would succeed. Many of them would have been Titus's. Right. And Titus was never going to win.
Right.
He might have done well in the test if he'd been a slightly different person, but he wasn't going to. The point isn't to do well in the test. The point is to lead a revolution. Mm-hmm. And Titus was never going to be that guy because he had too much anger in him. So Titus is a symbol of Darrow's got to let go of his hatred if he's going to fulfill the mission, right? And that's well done. That's a good move. That makes sense.
We didn't talk about this a ton last time, but I got to ask you about the whole kill the bottom half idea. Okay. I roll, go.
It's We didn't get that far in the last time. I don't think
No.
it. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
It,
It is not based on that expression. No, go. Why?
it always annoys me, right? It's a classic from like ninja movies where they always have like the guy trains like 10 warriors from the time they're like 10 years, then they're about to go into the world and become his tools of revenge. And their last test is each one has to kill like their partner out of it. So he ends up with 5 guys. And I'm always like, you end up with 5 people who have shown that they're like that extra level of savagery, I guess. But you could have had 10 guys who had all that training. Like that just seems like such a better answer than having 5 guys who have proven that they've got that little extra. I don't know. It's just like really, and then think about. Fundamentally, the school is created by the parents, which means that right, the parents are saying, "Oh no, it's fine if you kill half my kids." And
That's why you got an heir and a spare.
Yeah, and I'm like, I guess that's the point, right? The point is the Golds are that callous, even to their own, right? The Golds value power more than love and family.
And I gotta tell you, that's what I loved about it.
Okay.
I loved the idea that it's fair, right? It's not like the bottom 50 automatically get killed, but the level of savagery, it's not even that, it's ruthlessness. As an initiation into gold culture, it's like you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to have mastery over any situation. And that includes killing your classmates. And I also liked it as a unifying principle between all Golds.
We've all killed them.
All Golds have killed their classmates. We share this thing in common. And the fact that it's like this little secret within the society that we don't talk about.
Frozen.
Oh. But I like that it's a little secret inside the society that we don't talk about. And I thought that made the Golds more evil than they would have been if they'd just been really mean overseers.
Yeah, like their ruthlessness and their evil clearly extends to their own as well. They are, which also makes me in a way more sympathetic to the Golds. I'm like, they are damaged.
Oh, they're broken.
They're broken too, in a different way, and maybe sympathetic to them is the wrong word, but I do in some sense feel sorry for the Golds in maybe a way I wouldn't have if I didn't realize that they're horrible to each other as well as to the Reds and everyone else, which I guess is common.
Well, and when you get into those house all the house relationships, like within the house, are not what I was expecting at all, right? I thought they would all be very upright and above board, and I wasn't expecting all this backstabbing and chicanery, and
they're savage.
Oh my!
The other part of it that bugs me is it's another iteration of the Wakanda problem, right? Like, not only do you have to, because
things like this,
ruthlessness and savagery are obviously going to be important to be a good Gold, but like just being really good at a fist fight with no weapons seems like silly in an era of spaceships and tanks, right? So I'm always like, what about the little smart guy who's like maybe has like some kind of physical issue, isn't great at a fist fight, but is super ruthless and super smart and like clever, like. He's going to get his ass kicked. If he's just in a room with a dude who's much bigger and stronger than you, you're just going to die.
Which is where we get to Servo. Hang on a second, because I want to do Daniel's thing. Yeah, who wants 10 warriors that are better than everyone else? Why not 5 warriors who are better than everyone else? And also those 5 other warriors. I like that idea. One of the things that I like about moving into this section of the book is Servo. More and more and more and more and more. He's this little ugly runt that doesn't really have a place among the Golds. He was supposed to be dead, and he's the most useful guy on the planet, which is part of what I like moving out of the one-on-ones where it's like who can punch harder, where you start getting into strategy and tactics and relationships and being smarter than the other guy start to have value.
Servo seems to be the one who knows the game.
Yeah.
The only one who actually understands the game. And I think we basically feel like he threw his test.
Yeah.
more or less, right? Like he's the guy who's subverting everything. I think he, I think he, I have a feeling Servo's the one who gets how corrupt it really is, that it's not what it pretends to be. So he's just like, screw you guys. I'm not taking this. I'm not playing the way you want me to play because I know it's not going to help. I'm from a dipshit family. I'm not going to get what you're promising me, even if I win. So I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to have fun and mess people up. And then for the rest of my life, those people will be looking down on me, but I'm going to be like, yeah, but I killed your brother and I slit your throat and that. What else? Because he's really like, what else does he have to gain? They're not going to make him a Primus or whatever.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to be allowed to happen. He's the one person there who knows it's not going to be allowed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think almost everyone else seems to be under the delusion that it could. It's Severo, not Servo.
Oh, Donna. The entire book I've been reading at Servo.
It's so easy to do that. I think I have too, Severo.
I got to say Severo from now on. I like Servo. He's a little tiny robot that's covered in dirt.
But he's a wonderful character. Everyone likes the guy who gets stuff done. It's like the detective's assistant, like you go follow that dude and the dude's followed. And the assistant comes back and is like, he went here, here, and here. He never saw me. We love that character. Everyone loves that character. We all want one of those dudes in our life.
No kidding.
Right?
It's like he's the red right hand. He's like, you need to get in there and sneak it around. You need a way to get this stuff done where you can't get it done straight. Severo's the guy you call.
Yeah. So he's a great character. I had a lot of fun.
It's not just us.
That's pretty funny. And this is not a low budget audio narrator. This is a big production. So that's
there's an extent to which the flaws in the system are intentional. They want the skinny little genius to get beaten to death and let the second best tactical guy succeed, as long as he's big and strong.
I don't know why though. Like, why would they? I mean, there's this sense that this is on some level, it's making sure the right people rise to the top, the very top. But in the middle of the path, we're recruiting from these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for the recruitment purposes, I think you would want the skinny, genius dude. So you could have him, do your taxes or whatever goals.
No, I want Severo running my CIA.
Yeah. But even if Severo was like a little weaker and wasn't able to survive that first fist fight, but had the guy with Severo's brain, you would still want running your CIA. Mm-hmm. Even if he wasn't so good in like I said, the whole close room, fist fight to the death. I'll never love that. I'll never be like, this makes sense. I'm okay with it, but I'll never love it. But that's all right. It didn't ruin the book for me or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm still enjoying the stuff. I still think this section dragged on longer than it should. It's too much muddying. Like, they're doing better, then they're doing a little worse, and and then they get the horses, and then I'm like, I almost wanted him to try his way and fail faster. I want him to get stabbed a little earlier.
I get it.
Yeah.
There's a Game of Thrones episode called Kill the Boy, where the whole point of it is you need to stop being a child and graduate to being a man. And the one-on-one death thing was exactly that for me. It was like, whatever softness you have left, it has to go, or you have to go. And I was very much down with that idea. I love that we almost always come at things from different points of view. Makes me very, very happy. Makes for happy conversations with Jay.
Yeah. No, this makes me think about what I'm reading more. I just found myself tuning out a little bit with the raids and the winter coming, and there was some cool stuff like the guys being sewn up inside the horses.
Okay, please let's talk about the Trojan horses for a second.
That was good.
It was great.
It was That was great. I lost track of all the different kinds of weird technical weapons, like the ion blades. And
Ion blades are basically lightsabers. Okay, cool, great, fine, fantastic. But like at the point where the Trojan horses happened, I was beginning to get sick of Darrow. He was kind of reverting back to my initial, I'm smarter and stronger and braver than everybody else, and I'm taking over the house, and it's just that easy. And the fact that they win based out of Severo's sneak attack, I just thought was fantastic. And I like the fact that Darrow wanted to finish his fight with, what is it, Pax, so that, he could claim that he was the biggest and the strongest and the victory belonged to him. Okay, fine, great, fantastic. But the moment it was just like, oh, by the way, at the beginning of a chapter, there's a bunch of dead horses laying around. Don't pay any attention to that. It was great.
It was done. It was good. It was good. That was a really nice moment. There were a few. I'm trying to think of some other very clever moments. There were more. There were definitely more, and I'm not remembering them off the top of my head.
Well, to me, section 3 ended with 3 great moments. Number 1 was the Trojan horses. And I loved it because it showed the value of strategy over brute strength. It showed how valuable Severo was. This whole get in the dirt like no gold ought to be able to do. And she's ready, right? She's going to burn the whole field, and she's going to make sure there's nobody hiding. It's like, go ahead, light it on fire. I don't care. And she does. I mean, it's just like, okay, we're good. There's no trap being set for me here.
I'm going to see here.
Because you wouldn't value it as much if she was just like, okay, let's go ahead and get this fight started. She's like wary. She's nervous. She's like, I don't trust you. All those things work out great because you still wind up beating her. The second one is the first betrayal, right? Where they're like, oh, the girls take Darrow and they tell him that one of the other golds has been injured. And they're like, oh, come on out into the
Leia, right? Isn't
into
it
the woods? And we'll go, yeah.
Broke? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in response to Jackal, right? Who we're kind of building up to be this either ultimate gold or ultimate person you don't want to be, or whatever we're building him up into.
His name is the big boss.
I'm going to make you an offer. If you kill this guy and turn him in, you come on over to my team and you'll be greatly rewarded, which is exactly the way it would happen in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been yapping. You go.
No. I agree. It was good stuff. It was also like, it was good. It was fine. It was like Darrow's a little like, I almost feel like you should have seen some more of that coming. But then it's the point is like he's out there and it's like if he makes a noise and it's showing that he's not the guy who's gonna he's grown enough to not be the guy who's gonna charge out and try to save Leia and Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizes that that's not gonna work and he's gonna swallow his pride and hide in the snow and let them get hurt or killed. And he knows he's got this greater mission. And that's sort of interesting and that says something good about him he's a guy he's the guy you want in that position. You don't want the guy who's going to charge out there and get killed trying to save the chick, right?
I don't need a paladin.
Yeah, not that's not what the Reds need, right? The Reds need the guy who's going to stay in the snow and figure something out. He's also like he seems to be, I think he's not proactive enough in that whole section. He's not okay. Like we'll wait and we know. It's like we know this. What's happening here is not good for us long term. We have our own houses divided into 3 or 4 tribes. We're not resolving that. Everyone's besieging it. We have some assets, but we're not really gaining any. It's not proactive enough for a guy who wants to be Primus and wants to win. And it's a fail cycle, right? I mean, that's what they're trying to show. They're trying to show that he acts the way he does and it doesn't work and he gets stabbed and left for dead. Okay. Just took a long time.
Again?
Again. Yeah. I wonder if he's going to die a bunch of times in every other book. I actually don't know if the other books are about Darrow. I know nothing about this series.
My understanding is that the other two books in the series are primarily about Darrow et al. And then after that, he kind of moves on to some other characters, but keeps Darrow in it. So he kind of becomes this kind of background character. And I don't know if I'm jumping up and down about being a part of that.
Yeah, there's like a first trilogy, and then there's another set of books.
There's another series after that.
All right. I have time.
And then we get to our second betrayal, right? Which is kind of the one you've been waiting for.
Cassius.
Yeah, ever since the one-on-ones and he kills Cassius's brother, you're kind of waiting for the moment to happen. Now, with that one, I didn't love the fact that we had 2 chapters in a row where you had a repeat beat, where it's like, they're going to lure me into a trap, and I figured out the trap. I'm not mad at him because he's too smart and he figures out the trap. It's a little bit different each time, but it did feel like a repeat beat to me there.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the levels of complexity in the dialogue with Cassius, in that he made Cassius think a couple of times. You're not so much.
No. He did. I mean, Cassius's position is fundamentally asinine.
You killed my brother. Well, somebody was gonna.
But literally, like, oh, was I supposed to let him kill me because those were the only options?
Really?
Like, I feel like Cassius is acting like a 12-year-old a little bit in that like being that mad at this point. Like, first of all, I didn't know your brother. I didn't know he was your brother. I talked to the guy for 2 minutes before this, and then I had no choice. I didn't kill your brother. The Proctors killed your brother by putting him in with me, right? Why are you mad at me, right? And Cassius he had enough time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because it was like, if it was the day of the killing or the next day, and Cassius is still, shook, that's fine, right? But weeks or months later, to still be like, you killed me, like, come on, dude. Like, everyone here killed someone's brother, right? You killed someone else's brother. What if that guy came out, like, come on. Don't be, it's childish. It struck me as childish, but not, I mean, Cassius is a little bit of a putz, and I guess it's okay. I actually thought that Cassius wouldn't find out in this book. I thought they'd save that for a big deal later on. Like, I imagine the two of them being like big leaders of the army, and it being like 5 years later, like, you're the one who killed Julius, and then having a whole thing. You let me be your best friend all this time? I was wrong. That's fine. I'm not saying that would have been better. That's just what for some reason, I expected.
Honestly, that's what I was expecting, was the thing that I wasn't expecting, which, because Pierce is really good at kind of playing a little bit off of the way you think it's going to go.
Yes.
And I almost thought that he and Cassius were going to have a conversation that actually cemented the bond between the two of them. He's going to spend all this time being worried that Cassius is going to find out. And at the end, Cassius has known the entire time, and he gets it. And, despite what you did, you're still my brother.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the book he's writing. I get it.
Yeah, I thought he would beat Cassius. I thought he would do something clever in that fight to move the terrain, or move the fight to a distance where some setting where he would have an advantage and win. I thought he was going to win the fight with Cassius. I was wrong. Clearly. And I think you do expect that, as he's the hero. You don't expect him to just get stabbed and left for dead in the snow, right? That's not your first thought for the guy who's the hero of the trilogy, right? So
didn't expect him to die the first time either.
Yeah, right. So that was good. That was well done, and it makes sense that he wouldn't be able to win that fight. I do wonder at the Reds for putting him in this test with as little fight training as he's had. It seems like a poor stroke, when to be there, knowing that these kind of, knowing that the test is a lot of, stabbing people to death and punching people to death, and him not really being fully prepared to do that. But I don't know that they had a choice. I don't know.
No.
It's fine. I can live with that. and he has
You
Cassius.
don't go to war with the army you want. You go to war with the army you got.
Yeah. And they put a little martial arts stuff with that, whatever art it was that Cassius trains in. And he's like, it's too much meditation for me. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I want to punch things and hit people.
I have a strong grip. That'll be good enough.
Right? That's really his number one. His number one benefit is a strong right hand.
Well, it's supposed to appeal to teenage males, right?
That's right.
Most teenage men feel like their right hand, the grip strength is their number
that
one.
grip is strong.
We've discovered the secret to how Pierce Brown designs characters.
The one thing you can do well is now valuable.
The whole book is a wank joke.
Purple Rising.
Pierce, we know your secret. Hell diver. That's right. That's right.
Are you excited about where you think the book is going?
Yeah.
Part 4?
Absolutely.
Because it's interesting to me that you felt like it dragged in basically Act 3 of 4, if we're breaking things up that way.
3 or 4.
And
but
I
not before that.
Get it. I also feel like, holy Moses, does he have a lot of characters he's trying to set up. I mean, he's got at least 7 different relationships going where you need to feel something about other people, from Cassius to Titus to Pax to Mustang to Severo to
Jackal. He's got a relationship with the Jackal, right? He's got a relationship with the Proctors, at least in abstract. You know, and I think part 3 was a lot of setup. You know, it's like you set up the area so that when he comes up with a clever way to win, you have to know what makes it clever. Right? It's like, you know, it's the whole he's got to come up with a clever way to like figure this out, and you know, it needs to seem very difficult for that inevitable victory to feel good. And this seems difficult. Like, you don't look at this and go like, well, I know what I would do in his shoes, and it'd be obvious. It's not. Like, there's no there. Mars seems set up kind of to fail, right? Which they say, right? I think they do. That it's not, their game is rigged. They're not supposed to win.
No,
right?
They're just brutes.
Yeah, they're not supposed to win, and that's. So when he does, but we need to be convinced of that, which is why it takes a long meandering section to prove that it's hard, so that when he does do it, it's going to feel more satisfying. So I get it, but I'm looking forward to that final part more than I was looking forward to the setup part. Right. I was expecting it to be quicker, where he would win this test and move on to the next thing sooner.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to be okay. The test is done by the end of part 3, and maybe it is. We don't know. Maybe he's just lost. But yeah, I was expecting them. Okay, now they're on a command spaceship, and we're going to do this part now, and we're going to kill the lead gold that we're real mad at because he killed my wife, and off we go. Oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about. Have you read First Law?
A long time ago, like when it came out.
Okay. Do you remember the Logan Nine Fingers sections where
I remember the character. I do not remember like what happened.
So you don't need to remember what happened, but when you're with Logan, the narration is so blunt and punchy and has no nuance to it at all. When we got to the last chapter of part 3, I felt like I was reading Joe Abercrombie, which is, to me, is a good thing. I feel like he switched his writing style when they got into the actual combat with Cassius, where it was all just 4-word sentences, right? Bang, 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 bang after another. And I really enjoyed not only that style of writing, but changing it up so that this is what it feels like during this section. And I thought that was, once again, a mark of excellence for Pierce Brown being able to do this better than, your average Joe would.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Darrow's world is already so much. His world was so small in those opening chapters. His view on things was so small. He's talking in sort of poetic, flowery language, but about a very small existence.
Mm-hmm.
He knew a few people. They had minds. They had their job. He had his wife, but there really wasn't. It was. I'm going to reuse the word. It was a small world that he lived in, a very narrow existence.
Little dot at the bottom of a hole among millions of other holes at the bottom of a planet.
He didn't even know there were millions of holes, right? He wasn't even aware of how small it was.
Right.
And now he's getting like a clearer picture. Not there yet, but it's much more clear about what's really happening. Understanding so much more. And then like the language it's almost like sharper. Right? Like he's got a more acute vision of what's going on and what it all means. I mean, he's just sort of. I mean, there's clearly stuff he doesn't understand, but he understands. He didn't even know what golds, barely knew what golds were, and now he's got he sort of understands what they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where they come from. Like that's a huge leap in one book. And I thought it was also doled out really nicely. But that's the other beauty of it. You really understand the golds better because you know what you were pointing out, the shared experiences.
Yeah.
Right? You know what they go through. So that gives you a much keener, as opposed to just what they do. You know why they do it.
Right.
Really. I mean, you sort of understand. This school couldn't produce any other type of person other than what we've seen the golds to be. When we first saw them, they were more, I think they were more cartoonish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now they're not, but they should have been.
Emperor Augustus, thumbs down. Your wife is.
That was appropriate for that first section of the book.
Sure.
Because that's all Darrow could possibly see them as. And now the layers are being peeled back.
And as a reader, about all I'm prepared to absorb.
Yeah.
You try to give me all that stuff in one swell swoop, right. I'm in trouble.
Yeah. No, I thought he did a really nice job of avoiding the crazy info dumps and stuff that a lesser writer would have put in those sections. For the most part, really good.
So, predictions. Just real quick, I need to say that I walk into every single first part of a trilogy expecting that the author wrote this book and sold it to the publishing company with the expectation that there would be no more books, right? This isn't going to sell and one and done. So I'm not really expecting this. I'm expecting this book to have a definitive conclusion with a little bit of kiss toward what could happen later in the future. But I'm expecting some things to get resolved. Are you? Or do you feel like it's a 3-book arc?
I mean, I mean, the structure doesn't need to be that weird, because unlike most situations, he's clearly got a goal. He can't meet his goal in this book.
Okay.
Right? There's nothing they can do in the 4th section that's going to have him overthrow the goals.
No.
Right? He's just not there. But it's very easy to have stuff happen there that's going to feel in keeping with the reality that we've been given, and set him up so that, now he's going to be in position so that maybe in a couple more books he can overthrow the goals. Like, he needs to win the test, like be Primus or something like that.
Okay.
Get a little, I'd be shocked if he didn't end up Primus, leading his group to winning the test. Mars wins, kills the Jackal. I'm expecting that. And then he ends up getting a nice fat recruitment offer. Oh, I want you to lead my starship fleet, or be on it, be a lieutenant in my starship fleet now. And then that's because that's all he wins, but he hasn't fulfilled his mission and he's on his way. That's, I think, that's my baseline. Anything other than that happens, and I'm surprised. Does that sound right?
I have no idea at this point. I'm one of those guys. What was it? Children of Time, right? Aaron Tchaikovsky. You got a planet full of spiders that were supposed to be people.
Yeah.
I honestly walked into the end of that book thinking, okay, he's going to end the human race. Like I didn't count that out. No, I'm always an idiot because I'm always wrong. But that ending is always open to me. To me, I feel like this book ends with him killing Augustus. Right? I have a hard time seeing it ending a different way and just kind of saying, okay, tune in next week for your emotional satisfaction.
I think it ends with him having
the jackal,
but he's sharing an office with Augustus.
Right.
Got to get along with him for the next 2 books before he can kill him.
He's now your captain.
Yeah. And he loves you.
And he loves you.
And maybe Cassius killed the jackal.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm kind of wondering about the jackal and what he's going to do there, because I don't think it's just going to be, here's a bad guy who's worse than me and I kill him in a fight. Right? I think there's going to be a real human being on the other end of that phone, and there's going to be some emotional impact that goes along with that. I don't know. Happy to be wrong. I hope so.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I always think of books as having like, okay. I have a friend.
Oh, wait. Let me do my Joe impression real quick. Okay.
Okay. I have this friend, and whenever you say that, it's never a friend, but in this case, it really is. So I have this friend, and have I told you the story about she uses ChatGPT to write?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. So she uses ChatGPT to write. She doesn't use it to write the stuff that she puts out. What she'll do is she'll put in the prompt, use ChatGPT to generate like the story, and then she'll check that and say, okay, this is what I don't want to do. This is like the bad writing
standard.
How the story goes. This is the standard. This is the average. This is the mean. Whatever I do has to deviate from this. I have to do something different. I have to go above and beyond. I have to. If my writing ends up looking like this, I have screwed up.
I failed.
And I mean, people can talk about ChatGPT is stolen. Yes, fine, but she's not really using it. I'm not going to argue with her about this usage. You can argue. I'm not going to. Anyway, my point is,
we're going to put that in the box and we're going to throw it over there.
I kind of feel like my brain does the same thing, maybe not at that level, but I always, when I'm reading a book, I'm always like, okay, this is sort of the default baseline, what happens next, given what's happened so far. This is where it's going to go. If sort of an average writer takes it, this is what happens next. The average person, or well, I'm not saying Pierce Brown's not a great writer. I'm saying there's a baseline. And then, part of the joy is, I think when you are a new reader, your brain doesn't auto-generate that baseline text. So anything that happens is a wonderful surprise. Oh, look, Frodo got the ring into the volcano. That's phenomenal. But then you expect Frodo to get the ring into the volcano. And the only thing, what's interesting is maybe that he couldn't do it and that Sam had to do it. Then maybe like, well, that is kind of interesting. But for a new reader, you don't need as many of the shocks because everything's new. Or you can read Aragon and enjoy it because you just don't know anything, right? Right? But then, as if you read a whole bunch of books and you read Aragon, you're like, really? This again? Like,
really? This is it?
Because this is what my brain auto-filled from the premise. I could have, I could have, right? So what I'm saying is like, there's this, my autofill is not, it's not locked in stone, but I have this autofill idea of what has to happen. And I think he ends up killing the jackal. The jackal ends up being, he might be very scary and intimidating, but he's not actually interesting as a person. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he and the jackal end up being like best friends who like take on the rest of the society. And that's the next 2 books, which would be sort of interesting. But I think,
and the thing is, Pierce has surprised me enough times where I'm like, he's not following the dots plot.
I am not putting bets on my guesses being right. I'm not betting money on that, because he has definitely, I didn't expect, my autofill was that Darrow would beat Cassius in that fight. And that he might have to run and be on his own and leave Mars because Cassius had supporters. But that he would beat Cassius in that fight because he would do something super smart to show how awesome he is, and he would win. Or at least get away. And clearly, that's not what happened, right? So that was good. That was good stuff. But my autofill didn't. Yeah. So So you don't know what's going to happen. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to fight the urge now to read like the blurb for book 2 off Amazon or something.
No, brother, don't do that.
No, I'll try to resist. I'll try to resist. I really know nothing about this series, or knew nothing coming in.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
The thing that I will say is that you know how everybody is like, oh, YA. And to me, Red Rising really hit the same type of things that I think I talked about this last time that Hunger Games hit, where it just feels like this is, you can give this to a 14-year-old and you can give this to a 40-year-old, and they're probably going to enjoy it at an equal level for different reasons.
Well, what the 14-year-old's not going to appreciate is those ways that Pierce is deviating from
Right.
the meaning, right? Because the 14-year-old doesn't know. Most 14-year-olds don't know the meaning yet.
No.
Right? I mean, some do. Some people have read a lot at 4. I read a lot when I was 14. When I was 14, I had read a lot of fantasy, but we didn't have computers, so I wasn't playing games, right? I also had unusual access to bookstores, being in New York.
Well, and sci-fi was a different animal back then.
Yeah, but I read like all of Moorcock by that.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a different. I read all of, not all of Burroughs, but like all of John Carter. I read a lot of stuff I shouldn't have read, too. But that's another story. But that's the thing about YA is YA doesn't need to surprise the reader, because in theory your reader is newer and they're surprised by everything. They don't know this. They don't know the tropes.
Mm-hmm.
So the tropes don't have to be fresh. They can be old, and that's why Aragon, bringing that up. But that's just the easiest example.
Yeah, it is an easy example.
But this definitely has more, and this is why some people dislike YA, right? Because they're older and they're like, okay, I need something with more innovation and surprises, and this has it. And that's why I think it also, apparently the tone changes over the books. People keep saying book 1 might be YA, but book 2 clearly isn't. And I'm like, okay, I'm not arguing.
It gets older as it goes, as it should.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, presumably it gets, like, the tone gets darker. I don't know if I need that. Let's hope there's not a ton more sexual assault.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I know. I could have done without that.
I mean, I get it, but it's just uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, and his justification for it was super interesting.
Yeah.
And as soon as I read that, I'm like, oh, that's not cool. I get it. I mean, it's not a justification, but I'm like, part of me is like on a rational level, it doesn't make it okay in any way. In my heart, for a moment, I'm just like, all right, I can't hate this. I can't hate this. As heinous as he is, Titus, as heinous as his actions were, I'm like, given what he experienced, I can't, not that I can forgive him. I can't, but I don't know if I can hate him. I'm just like, I don't know. It's like,
he created this great, miserable kind of Gollum moment where it was unforgivable, but you understood it.
I understood it. And I'm like, you know what? If I'd had that life experience that he had, because you can infer so much from the few words he said. Yeah. I'm like, if I'd had that life experience, would I be doing horrific things?
Because I'm going to punish all golds no matter what.
I can't say I wouldn't. I mean, they rape my whatever, so I'm raping their daughters. I'm like, that's terrible and unforgivable. But like, I don't know if I can say I don't get it on some level. I don't want to overstate this, but I definitely, my feelings for Titus. I mean, I didn't like him. I wasn't like, yeah, go Titus, good mom. But he went from being just 100% evil, no bad in every possible way, to
depth.
There's a level where if you sort of understand why someone is the way they are, you can still say you're still evil, but I get it.
Well, and coming back to that theme, I loved at the end of Act 3 where Io came back as being his heartbeat, right? And everything being about her. That emotionally, after you let her go away for a while, bringing her back really let it land and hit home. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, he had a gentle touch with that was well done. I mean, it could have been so much worse. and it was well done. Yeah. No, Daryl's arc again. This section being a little bit, I don't want to say a slog is overstating it, but a tiny bit of a slog was needed. You need to see that this is not easy. You need to see that it's hard, and you need to see that he doesn't just go in there and think of the right way to win and win, because he can't be that simple.
No,
because then the end's not satisfying if it's too easy
at all.
Yeah, so you need a big chunk where he's kind of like butting his head against the wall, which is what we got. And he's still doing some clever things, but he's clearly not getting there. And then in the next section, he can get there, and we can be like, oh, okay. Good.
And we've got a lot of interesting characters to play off now, right? You know that at least 3 of these are going to come into play. You know that Mustang is going to have something to say further down the line that's going to matter. Severo, absolutely. Cassius, absolutely. Who knows? I don't know. We might be teleported back to a spaceship for part 4 and the whole thing is over. I don't know.
No. There's no way you can tell there's no way we're not seeing Severo again. Right? Because he's gotten too much character development but no closure. Like if it's just like 3 books later and like, wait, is he still at school? Like, did they lose him and he's still hunting wolves and stuff? Like, no one would be happy with that.
No.
That can't be what happens. But there are definitely a lot of the guys you mentioned, like, I could really see Cassius dying in this test, and I could really see Cassius being a running character. I could definitely see it go either way. Severo, I think, can't die in this test. The Jackal, we don't know enough about. It could go either way. Because you don't know how much of these people are going to be the framework for whatever conflict is framing the next stage post-test. I would imagine some of them.
See, to me, I don't care. All I care about is this book, right? If I really enjoy this book, I'll jump into the next one. But there must be a satisfying emotional conclusion to this one.
I think winning the test does that.
What?
I think winning the test.
Yeah, I think so.
And or meeting or what would be better is meeting some other kind of victory condition where he doesn't win but gains some favor. Like he's got a chance to beat the Jackal, turn it down, and in return for like a really hot position in the Navy or whatever.
See, even better would be turning the entire thing on its head, where the favor doesn't come from the proctors, it comes from the other students. And that, that class, we end with that class in open revolt against the proctors, that kind of thing. I that's kind of what I'm expecting / hoping for, is something that's just a little bit outside of where I'm thinking it's going to go. So who knows?
He can win the game without winning the game's rules.
Yes.
He's got to win the game. He's got to get a victory out of it.
Yeah.
You didn't win, but we all think of you as the winner, and we're all going to follow you later in life. That's plenty. That's plenty.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be named Primus or whatever, right? But he needs something. He can't just come out of this run of the mill.
Well, Donna can't wait for our final reactions.
Soon.
And it is 6:00, and you need to go to class.
I need to go drive my son.
So we're going to jump off. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you.
Thanks for
Happy
watching.
Red Rising.
Happy
See
Red
you
Rising.
later, kids. Bye.